Welcome everyone to the Your Desired Success Foundation Mastermind. All around the paying it forward, by the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have done unto you. So when we're talking about the power of the mastermind, and we've got Napoleon Hill here, who's the author of the world-renowned book of success, Think and Grow Rich, which is here. And we're going to be diving into that later on. When he spoke about the power of the mastermind, he said, it is the principle through which you may borrow and use the education, the experience, the influence, and perhaps the capital of other people in carrying out your own plans in life. It is the principle through which you can accomplish in 1 year more than you could accomplish without it in a lifetime if you depended entirely upon your own efforts for success. So that's the power of the mastermind, why we come together to access each other's minds and to actually help us all move forward. So we've all got our numbers. So if you'd like to start us off, Albert.
The purpose of the mastermind is to share our value and common-minded people in order to create wealth in all areas of our lives, I guess. The parts behind the pictures there.
Oh, just click on the single button on where all the your pictures of people are. Just there should be a button. There's a line, then a button, and then there's two. If you click on the button one, it should bring everyone out the way.
Oh, wow.
Tony.
We are here to inspire and challenge each other to reach and exceed goals.
Each member is committed to their own success as well as the success of every member of the group.
We are committed to meeting in person or virtually for 1 hour every week.
We are present. There is no mistaking or distractions during meeting.
We are collaborative. We listen without interrupting, lecturing, or judging.
We celebrate each other's successes without jealousy.
We are honest and participate by giving thoughtful feedback.
We are open and listen to different perspectives without being defensive or offering excuses.
We trust fellow members enough to share fully.
We are focused, but we also think it's important to have fun during meetings.
Indeed we do. We are real and authentic. This is a no BS zone.
We allow ourselves to become completely aligned with each other and in the higher force of our mind, our soul, and one love.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, each of you, for setting the foundation of the mastermind. So as I mentioned earlier on, the process that we go through for that is to make sure everybody's clear on being open, judgment-free zone, and really sharing from what our experience of being where we're at and respecting where everybody is. So today's topic is definitely powering by the book, Think and Grow Rich. We're actually going to dive into this. And I'd love to hear what your initial perception would be when you heard that title. So even if things have changed, maybe you've read the book or you've listened to the audio, you've spoken to people, when you first heard the line, Think and Grow Rich, what came up for you before you actually went through the book? Would anybody like to start with that? Callie,
I'll start.
Like a whip it. Oof.
Seriously. When you said the heading, I thought, oh shit, I haven't got the book. But all I thought was, I judged it. I went straight into about being in the heart and not the mind to grow rich. But I do know that we need both tools, heart and mind, to grow rich. Like we need our mind to support the vision and the belief and the thought form in alignment. So I definitely judged it because I honestly went straight into my heart is where I grow rich.
Powerful. So was that literally like since you've been jumping on the masterminds, or is that from a while back?
No, that was just when you named the book today.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I'd love to change that paradigm even more deeply. So I'm so grateful I'm here today because I'm hoping we change my belief around it has to be just heart.
Yeah.
It's got to be all of it.
That's so powerful. That's so cool. Already, look at Tony getting the notes.
I'm just trying to think when I actually first read this book, when I was first came across it, and I think it would have been, it was back when I first arrived in Australia and just bought a house with my first wife, and I was introduced to a multi-level marketing concept, and they had a book of the month program, and this was one of the first books that I was presented with on the book of the month program. And at the time, I was struggling financially, single income, young child, first mortgage. And I've got to be honest, the concept of growing rich sounded way beyond me. For me at that point, it was just a case of, if I can make enough to survive, I'll be pretty happy. It was just paying the bills and getting through the week, really. So it sounded like a bit of an alien concept, the idea that you could actually become rich. Having said that, I was from Jersey in the Channel Islands, so my parents were hoteliers and I had plenty of very wealthy friends. So it wasn't that I hadn't been around wealth. So it wasn't that I didn't think I could ever achieve it, but at that point in my life, it seemed like it was a hell of a long way off. So it really does open your mind up, I think, once you start reading it. But the initial reaction was just, wow, this sounds like high-powered stuff that's probably beyond me at the moment. That's honestly how I felt.
Yeah, it was a similar one for me, Tony, because that's how I got introduced to it when I joined a network marketing company back in, I think it was 2012. And it was funny because only the people who I would have classed as success in the business, only those people were actually talking in depth about the book. So what that showed to me was they had actually read the book. And I hadn't bought it. Because I already had this thing in my head that I haven't read a book since school. I don't like reading books. It's boring reading books. And it's all really the belief from school, because the books I was made to read, I did not want to read, and I had no enjoyment reading them. And therefore I just thought all books were boring. But I did download the audio and listen to the audio, and I was fascinated with the audio. However, didn't really do anything about it. So the thought of it, I just thought it was all around money. That's literally all I thought it was. It was just all around money, especially when we hear the word based on what we've been led to believe in society, especially around rich. And I think as well, because one of the image here, like the top hat and the cane, or whatever you would call it, the walking stick, then it was the perception of all the snobs and that kind of thing. So I obviously had this detachment there. However, it was at a networking group event that where I had met Tony, and one of the guys had the original copy and said, I'd spoken about the book, and he said, there's a secret, and all you've got to find is the secret, and that is the key to you changing your whole life. And I was like, what's the secret? What's the secret? And he's like, you need to read the book. And I'm like, don't want to read the book. I just want the answer. What's the secret? And he's like, it will literally jump out once you realize, but it's already in front of your eyes. And I'm going, how's it in front of my eyes? Stop playing like bloody riddles with me. But it was only really when I dived into it over the last, even though I've listened to the audio over the last 5+ years, it was only really over the last several months of sitting down and taking the time to read through, but not with the goal, as I always say about books, to not finish it, to read and implement what I'm learning, to try to do my best to actually have this connection and understanding. So even though I have read through it and I'm back going through it again, I think I've been at this part here, which is page 200 of 300 and odd pages. Yeah, almost 400 pages. And just in regards to 20 pages has taken me 3.5 months, 20 pages, because I'm too busy implementing what I've learned before and then in that section, rather than the goal being to finish it. So Yeah, that's been super powerful. So thanks for bringing that up for me, Tony, because that reminded me how I got involved with it also.
Can I just add something to that? Because you just pointed about your cover. That I've got the white version of it. That so this, I would have bought this back in, I don't know, about 1986, 87, somewhere around there. And right at the top, it says this book could be worth $1 million to you. So if that doesn't set the tone of the book, I don't know what else does.
Absolutely.
Bill Kane.
And I know that just before we flick over there to you, Albert, if you want to share anything, and Maya, welcome joining us. One of the things that was important to me was that I listened to Jim Rohn years ago, and I've listened to Jim right the way through. I first got introduced to him once again through network marketing, and Jim had said about Napoleon Hill, and he said he's very weird, Napoleon. You got to be careful what you read, what you listen to from Napoleon. And that fascinated me in that, because I'm like, well, why is it weird? So when I started diving in, it was actually talking all around the frequency and vibration. And well, that's weird to a lot of people. You know, when you mention the word consciousness, some people are like, oh, bloody hell, that's all airy fairy weird stuff. You know, we're going back to taking the drugs hippie days, going in, getting into that kind of mindset. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be. So when I was looking for my Think and Grow Rich, hey, sorry?
That's why I joined.
I actually made sure I got the unedited version. So the 1937 unedited version. Because there's been plenty of people that have written it. There's one at the moment, which is Think and Grow Rich for Women, which was written by Sharon Lechter, who was given authorization from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And a lot of the people who've read it, my mum's read it, Beth's read it, a few other people I know, especially women, because this is written in 1937. It's very, very masculine, male orientated. So it doesn't really acknowledge women in that way. So apparently the Think and Grow Rich for Women really does connect and in a way help bring it into today's world rather than still back in the 30s when it was written. And it took 25 years to come to fruition. So it's, you know, there's a lot of depth there. But anyway, Albert, yourself.
Well, you're saying what does the title mean to me, or what do I read out of it? Well, it's I would have to say it's like with a Think and Grow Rich. It kind of reminds me of a lot of what Jim Fortin has to say. I don't know if you know who he is, but I've been listening to a bit of his podcasts, and he's got a lot of mindset. Like he says, like, you know, you got to have the mindset to achieve your goals and to get where you're going, and he uses an example like Mike Tyson. He says like he's made millions of dollars, but he's broke because he grew up broke, and he's got that in his mindset that he's broke, and so when he gets money, he just flaunts it and gets rid of it quickly.
Yeah.
So I would think that, like, judging from the title, that would be kind of work into that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's amazing because then it opens the door for the subconscious work, because that's where the belief systems are all being stored. So even when there was something that you wouldn't have been in England then, Tony, but I'm confident you weren't, or Jersey. There was a young lad that won the lottery. I think he was only about 19, 20, and he won £10 million. And he just blew it. He's what you class as a bogan or a chav, or I don't know what you call them in America, but or Canada. But he basically blew all of the money. He bought a huge piece of land out in the country with a house on it, and had all of his mates there, and they turned it into a demolition derby. So they just bought all these cars and were smashing them into each other. And obviously all the neighbors were going crazy and all this stuff. And there was helicopters of the news reporters filming it all. He just didn't care, but he lost it all because he didn't grow with the money growing with him. And that's the problem of giving something to somebody when they're not ready for it, they'll lose it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in regards to how we've been what we've come from, but also how we've grown with it. And I believe Robert Kiyosaki spoke about that in Rich Dad Poor Dad, about him going and losing. I think his business collapsed. He was $1 million in debt or something, and he could have filed for bankruptcy. And he said, no, if I was able to get to a company that was worth $1 million and then lose everything, and I'm in massive amounts of debt, I've got the mindset to get me out of this. That's powerful. Like, that's super powerful. Maya, yourself, we're actually, the question, Maya, was, when you hear, we're talking about Think and Grow Rich, the book, when you hear the words Think and Grow Rich, what was initially, or rather when you heard them, what was initially your thought about towards the book, or what it was going to be about, if you're available to talk? And that's the same for anybody who's on the Facebook Live as well. So if Maya's not able to talk, she might be driving. So Kelly, family lineage, belief, but embodied. Now I'm an adult, I choose my mindset. Yeah, powerful. So one of the things that I want to just touch on, because would we all agree that most of society, when they hear the word rich or riches, they think of money?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a yes, Kelly, or is that a hand up? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's cool. Just so I know. Well, I'm going to go through the contents of the book. I'm just going to go through the contents of the book, because this truly did fascinate me. Getting past the preface and stuff. Desire, the first step to riches. Faith, the second step to riches. Autosuggestion, the third step to riches. Specialized knowledge, the fourth step to riches. Imagination, the fifth step to riches. Organized planning, the sixth step to riches. Decision, the seventh step to riches. Persistence, the eighth step to riches. Power of the mastermind, the ninth step to riches. The subconscious mind, the 11th step to riches. The brain, the 12th step to riches. The sixth sense, the 13th step to riches. And how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. Clearing the brain for riches. Now, when you go through that, and I've just turned the page and it's straight onto preface, did it mention money anywhere?
No.
Isn't that interesting?
No, but I love all of those.
It just goes to show that it's not, the riches are not external. It's all internal work. It's already within us.
That's powerful. That one statement.
Like and we've been led to believe it's all external. Like, rich is a form of wealth. You've got to have all this money. You've got to be able to show your bank account. You've got to have these materialistic things. And what's the house? What's the car? What's the boat? All this kind of stuff. I remember one of my first girlfriend, when I arrived in Australia, her mum and dad are fairly wealthy. And when I say that, I'm talking the lifestyle. They have plenty of money. They've got investments and so on. They've got a lot, and they just do whatever they want to do. And he was driving around in a Holden, which is, I think you guys in Canada know a Holden, do you? It's like General Motors. So, in America, and I'm like, why don't you have like a Mercedes ML or something? And he's like, because I don't need one. Yeah. I'm like, why don't we have a boat? I don't need one. Like, but to me, that was the way it was. It wasn't conditioning from my parents, because we grew up with hardly anything, but that was what I saw. The people who had the BMWs, the Mercedes, the Audis, then going into your Ferraris and so on, they were successful, wealthy people. But what I came to realize when I moved to Australia, and I actually got around a guy who has multi-million dollars in the bank, just investments everywhere, a lot of nice things as well. And he said to me, most of Perth, which is one of the wealthiest cities in the world, apparently, most of the people in Perth are up to their eyeballs in debt, and they're trying to just keep up with the Joneses. And he literally, we're in the casino, whereas I don't gamble or anything, not that it's a judgment, anybody who does. I find it fascinating watching people, But we're in the casino having a drink, and he was saying, that guy over there, look at it, look at him flaunting, right? He's in massive amounts of debt, but he wouldn't tell you. It's all a show. It's a facade. Just like, wow. And that it's that thing of keeping up with the Joneses and being seen, but at what cost eventually?
Yeah. What cost?
So I don't class riches by money. I class it by friendships and you know, your lifestyle and your family and all the things that are free in a way, you know, that being able to walk around nature just nearby, that I feel rich because of that. Rich in spirit though, not obviously financially.
Yeah, I believe it's about value. And if you're valuing your heart at its full capacity, you are abundant. You're like the limitless abundance of the universe. But it comes back to internal value. So I could believe I'm worth $1 million, but does that value me?
Yeah. So with that there, Kelly, when you say value, are you talking about how you value yourself or value the money?
No, value myself in the money, or value myself in the nature, or value myself in that relationship over there, or value myself in health. Like they're all valuable and they're all part of the abundant universe. But how do I want to value myself in that?
Yeah.
Where does it sit in me for me to receive that?
Yeah, beautiful. What came up for me then when you were saying that, and I'll ask this question for those who have read the book. What was Andrew Carnegie's main goal? Does anyone know?
Well, I thought it was to help people to achieve the most that they could. I thought he was trying to educate the general population.
And how was he aiming to do that?
By setting Napoleon Hill off to interview all the people who had been successful or were acknowledged as being successful, and asking them what their philosophies were and how they did it, what their attitudes were.
One of the things that was said in the book that Andrew Carnegie's goal, no, obviously not his only goal, but was to earn $400 million to the halfway point of his life, and then spend the rest of the second half of his life giving it all away. Yeah. And one of the ways that he gave it all away was he created libraries around the world, and well, certainly throughout America. And when you think of what Tony just said then, putting all that knowledge into one place where you can go and you can access that knowledge of any kind. And at the same time, I don't know of anywhere where you have to, but a library card was free. You know, to be a member was free to go and access all that information. And yet how many of us would choose to? And even today, when we look at the internet, there's information everywhere. We do have to be aware of where we are getting it from, what we're reading, and what's the intention of the person who's written the blog or website or whatever it would be. However, there's information everywhere. And when I heard that around Andrew Carnegie, for the first half of my life, my goal is to earn 400 million or something like that. Or once he hit it, he said, the second half of my life, I'm just going to give it all away. You know, if you're inheriting Andrew Carnegie's fortune, you'd be a bit upset. But at the same time, what he's created.
Yeah, Bill Gates is pretty much doing the same thing. I think that perhaps a lot of the people that make extraordinary amounts of money begin to realize that that's not it. Money is just a means of exchange. It's just a concept, and that it's what they can do with the money is what counts.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you get hung up, you know, if you go back to the biblical quote, because Napoleon Hill was quite religious at the time, although interestingly, without witting the devil, we see some different twists on that. But yeah, there was that sort of that comment in the Bible about you know, that the love of money was, you know, the widely misquoted statement that money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. So loving money for the sake of money is where the problem arises. But money itself is not the problem. Money is just a concept. It's what you do with it, and it's how you treat it as an energy of exchange, and how you use it as a force for good. You know, so if you can make a fortune, and you can go and build a hospital or build a library or build a school, then you've put it to good use. You know, you've given back to the community. But if it's just about you driving the flashiest car and having the flashiest boat and all that, then you've missed the point.
Yeah. And Bob Proctor spoke about that. And I think it was in his Born to Get Rich seminar that I've listened to countless times. And he had said, money was created to help us be comfortable, nothing else. So like when you look at that, it just eliminates to a point, a level of financial stress. And one of our friends, his uncle is very financially wealthy. And he said, and our friend was struggling for money, like was getting quite a lot of debt. And he said to his uncle, I've just got money problems. And his uncle said, you've not got money problems because you've got no money. How can you have money problems if you've got no money? And he was like, that's a good point. He said, when you have money, you then have money problems, because everything comes with the polar opposite. What it can give you, it can also create a problem. So it depends on where you're sitting. And Tony just mentioned outwitting the devil. Then we had, we're on the final chapter now, chapter 12, which is a monster chapter because there's also the overview of it. And in there, it was talking around the way that we view things. And one of the things that I highlighted was when the individual does not use the brain for the expression of positive creative thoughts, nature fills the vacuum by forcing the brain to act upon negative thoughts. So all these things that we've got, there has to be the law of polarity, the universal law of polarity has to be a positive and a negative. There has to be two sides. So if we're not using everything as we just said, and you highlighted it as well, Kelly, the exchange, it has to flow in. Corey talks about this, money will flow in, it has to flow out, but it's equals. It's not more going out than more coming in, because that can't happen and you'll never get ahead, or in fact, you'll never be balanced. So we've all been in areas where, you know, and I'm confident to hold my hand up and say, I've been in places where I've had a lot of money in my bank, and I've been in places where I've actually gone past zero, because we all know we can go past zero. We can fly past zero. So there's that thing of then looking at it and going, well, where is that money going? What am I choosing to do? I know that when I was in that state of depression and loss and confusion, I was spending money left, right, and center on things that I didn't really want. It was just for instant gratification, to give me some form of love and gratification. So, but when I got them, as soon as the parcel arrived, it was like, I opened it. Yeah, cool. Next. Like there was nothing going on. And I was looking, I was continuously opening the door outwards for external riches, when really I needed to open the door inwards and start thinking more around that, how I'm going to shift that negativity. What am I going to do to bring more of that positivity, and how am I going to start thinking better? Because I don't need to spend my money on things that aren't going to support me the way that I want to be supported. I could probably get far more value from giving that money to a charity or to a dog refuge or animal refuge or whatever it would be that's doing good in the world, that helps me feel good, and I can be a part of that movement, that shift, that level of consciousness shift, rather than something that, in all fairness, as we know, something that like this phone, you know, this phone here is just going to be worth throwing away. I'm actually changing my phone at the end of this year. So it's like, well, even though it's served its purpose, that's the thing. It's come to its end of its life. What then? And that's where I feel that and you mentioned and touched on it before, Tony, and I certainly see it in the way that you and Joe, your partner, can choose to live, is being out in nature and experiences and having the time and like when we talk about freedom, everyone has a different connection to freedom. But to me, the freedom is to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with who I want. It's not about the fancy yacht or the plane or whatever. It's about walking in nature and just looking at the trees and looking at the pine cone and thinking about all the formation of that. Like that's to me true freedom. And yet we all have the ability to do that around us, or maybe drive somewhere or wherever it would be, or get a bus or wherever it would be, to go somewhere to experience that. And yet many of us choose not to, because we think that it should be something else. And we miss out. Even talking to Beth and said, you know what? I live in Australia, which is paradise. Some people save up years for this to be the big holiday. There's some people save all year. They work 48 to, let's say, 50 weeks a year for 2 weeks holiday to go somewhere. And I live in what I would class as paradise. And how am I choosing to appreciate it and be grateful for it?
Me too.
Even Canada. Albert, you're in Canada, aren't you?
Yep.
Like that's like, I can't wait to go to Canada. I'm so excited for it because I've got friends there. I've seen so much of it. My mom and stepdad have traveled around Canada. And I'm like, wow, that's an amazing place. But a lot of people, a lot of Canadians, a lot of people who live there would take it for granted.
Oh yeah, a lot of people do. Like there's lots of Americans that come up to the area that I live in for bird hunting, like for geese and stuff, because we're right in the migratory flyway, and same with fishing and that. Like I live between Lake Winnipeg and Lake Manitoba. Lake Winnipeg, I believe, is the 11th largest lake in the world, and it's like I think I went there and went to the beach there once this summer. Just pretty much got out of my truck, looked around, and came back home.
Yeah,
a lot of times we do take for granted what's in our back door.
Yeah. And it's that thing of, it's awareness. I feel it. That it's the same as like either watching a movie or listening to an audio or reading a book. You always get something new the second time, the third time, and the continuous times you go through it. And I think sometimes we're so busy focusing on something else that we miss the true message. And I've spoken about this on other calls. For over 5 years, I've been listening to the same audio, not every day, but I've been listening to it. And it's only recently that I've heard the message. And today it literally, and I said that once we finish Outwitting the Devil, we're actually going to dive into the universal laws. It's part of the Gold Star group, accountability group we've got there. We're going to dive deep into that. And lo and behold, chapter 12, as we're closing out Outwitting the Devil, it dived deeper into the importance of nature and the universal laws. And I'm like, it's telling me it's now the time, it's ready. For the past 5 years, I've been listening to Bob Proctor telling me to be implementing the universal laws. And you know what? It's gone straight over my head. And it's not because I've got no ear. It's just gone straight over. I wasn't ready to hear it. But now I'm ready. And a lot of it is because of this, because of the power of the mastermind, which, as we know, is in the riches. It's in chapter 10. It's in the riches, the importance of coming together and sharing and thinking and strategizing and masterminding around different topics to help us all grow and evolve and accessing that wisdom.
Martin, I don't see Think and Grow Rich as a manual on how to make money or how to turn yourself into a millionaire. I see it as more a code for life. It's a set of guiding principles that, if you follow them, will enable you to enrich your life in the sense of improving your life, not in the sense of adding dollars into your bank account. That may be the byproduct of it, because if you provide goods or services, if you're benefiting the community, then of course you are causing an exchange to occur that will result usually in you being rewarded for that. So if you're successful first, money will follow. If you're providing something that is benefiting your community around you, then money will follow anyway. But if you focus just on making money for the sake of making money, and you're not really benefiting anybody, then you're building your house on sand. It's just going to collapse. And that's what I think, from what my takeaway on it anyway, is it's really more of a moral compass code. It's about giving you the guidelines of, okay, how not to be poor, but more how to think and act in ways that are going to enrich your soul and have a positive influence and impact on the people around you.
Yeah, so it's back to an internal value, but it comes with the connection to community that brings us all into unity, because you valuing you and what you receive, and you value that and receive it, you're actually giving the ripple effect of the entire community to have the same receiving if they choose. Like, it's like giving each of us all permission energetically, even if our mindset's not there yet.
Yeah.
So that's what I
Powerful.
see from you, Tony. Thank you for sharing.
Well, you know what, Callie, and Tony, yeah, absolutely spot on. It's interesting that came up with what you said in particular, Tony, because I had said to Beth around when we were talking about the goals and we were accessing the abundance game there to set the goals and stuff. And I'd said, it's the result is the byproduct of the action in the goal. So the action that's taken towards the goal gives you then a result. And like for instance, as we know, Tony and I are both football fans. And when I say football, I'm on about real football, none of that American or Australian game. I'm talking about real world football.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
Tony's a Manchester United fan, and I'm a Liverpool Football Club fan. We didn't have a good result recently, but don't worry about that. So the point being is, though, that when we're playing on the pitch, the player's job is to defend and score. That's, as we know, that's pretty much every game anyway. Defend and score, get the points. So that's the goal. The result is at the end, once it's finished. And once they've won the game, the actual result is the 3 points that helps them climb the league table to get to the top. Now, I know there's different ways in the leagues and so on, but whoever finishes on top of the league in England wins the Football League. That's the way it is. So when you start looking then and thinking about, especially around the money and the riches and so on, for me, a lot of it is that it's like for a lot of people, they're chasing the money, but it's the person. It's all comes from this. So, and one of the things that came up for me when you were both after you'd both spoken was, or when you were both speaking, when it was the World Cup in Brazil, there was a TV show that was featuring David Beckham. Did anyone see it? And David Beckham was traveling around Brazil with a few of his friends, and they were on motorbikes.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
It was just incredible.
Into the jungle where people didn't know who he was.
That's what I was just going to say. Do you want to share it?
No, you carry on.
So David Beckham goes into the jungle with his friends, and in fact, I think he definitely went in, but I think this interview was with him and a guy who lived in the jungle with his family. And this David Beckham and this guy are talking, and this guy didn't know who David Beckham was. No idea who he was. And he didn't even know what football was. So that's how disconnected he was. And he said, so what do you do? So this like the question he asked to David Beckham, and he says, oh, well, I'm a football player. And he's like, what's that? So David Beckham had to explain what he did for the first time ever to somebody that he played football, and he kicked basically a bag of air. And he was very successful and wealthy. And I remember the guy saying to him, "Oh, you must have a great life." And David Beckham answered, "It's complicated." And I remember hearing that, and it stuck with me. And I was like, wow. I look at David Beckham and I think he's got everything. And the response was, "It's complicated." Like, that's really interesting coming from somebody who we would class in society as has made it, has got everything that he wants. And when he asked, David asked the guy who lived in the jungle, who had, based on our perception, who had nothing, him there with his family, and he said, "Are you happy?" And he was like, "This is great. I love it." He was just at peace with who he was, his family, what he had. And it was just beautiful to witness. It was confusing. It was because logically, you're like, how could you even be happy with that? And then how could David Beckham say it's complicated? Logically, it's hard to process, but it's really interesting.
Experience, Martin. So the people, I've got some very wealthy friends, and one of the main concerns they have is the fear of losing their money and fear of not having enough and being poor. And yet they've got more money than they could probably, well, I suppose they could spend it in their lifetime if they wanted to. But, you know, they've got so much money that they don't need to worry about it. As far as most people would be concerned, they would say, these people are loaded. What are you worried about?
Yeah.
But it's been the same experience for me. And I've been into the Peruvian Amazon, and I've met those people, and I've seen places like the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, where I've seen kids kicking a ball around on a beach with a couple of sticks as goalposts. They haven't even got electricity in their homes, let alone PlayStations and Xboxes and mobile phones and all that stuff. And yet you can see the absolute joy just because they're with their friends and they're doing something together and they're having fun. And that is the sad part about our Western world, is where we've lost that connection in a lot of cases with the simple things in life. And when you hear someone like David Beckham saying that, or you hear people like Gates saying that they're going to spend their second half of their life giving it away, you realize it's not about the money. It's about what you could do with the money to help other people around you. And we have got it wrong. Like our society, we worry too much about all these material things. And I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. You know, I want the nice things in my house, but it's not what matters. You can get much joy out of walking down the park, like you said earlier, and looking at the birds, or just listening to the sounds of nature, as you can out of having the latest flash car. That's not to say that if you are into cars, that's okay, and you want to get the flash car, then go for it if you can afford it. So it's not saying that money is a bad thing. It's not an excuse for poverty. It's saying that money isn't the answer. Not of itself.
But it is.
Do elaborate, please. Convince me.
I want you guys to convince me. You guys are all into the mindset belief system, and I'm into the heart set. I need convincing. Now, I just think Mother Nature, I think what we're really searching for is that internal joy. And the material side of it, people think they'll get that expensive car, I'll work hard, I'll become rich, and the outcome will be this internal joy. But it's like chasing the dog's tail or whatever you want to be chasing, and you never reach the true internal joy, which is back to self-value and real joy. You can't understand that until you connect with Mother Nature just by being you.
You've just nailed it when you use the word searching. People are searching, but they're searching in the wrong place. It's not out there. It's not the stuff you need to complete you. You're already complete. You've just got to look within. And that's been one of the benefits, if you can call it that, of the global pandemic, is more and more people are awakening to that realization and looking within for the answers, for the solutions, instead of looking for somebody else or something else or a certain amount of money to bring you happiness, it's actually just a decision.
Yeah. So does that come back to a belief that I tap into self and I'm enough?
Yes.
And in that enoughness, when I value everything I believe or choice I make, every step of my day, journey, whatever, every moment, if I'm valuing myself from my heart, every time I check in, does this choice I'm about to make value me? When it is a yes from my full clarity, my full intuition, and I take that yes, the outcome is not that I get a brand new car, even if that was because of my yes. It's actually the joy of being able to tap into my internal source of connection, that's my intuition, and valuing the yes, like actually action taking the yes by checking in, like all of those little actions create me to have an internal joy that the car can't give me. The BMW that I got given from my Ian's parents, that does not bring me joy. What brings me joy is checking in and actually tapping into my true choice point. And when I check into that and I say yes to what it's telling me in my internal choice point, yes, go for it, I have joy. But you and Albert and Martin cannot take away from me. It's so in me. Even if they came and took the car again, it can't remove that. Yeah. And that joy comes from when I connect into that, that is actually Mother Nature as well. Like, that's why when we go into Mother Nature, we feel really joyful when we do actually surrender while we're going for a walk and connect. But it's the same joy because Mother Nature and myself are one. So her joy is just a mirror of my internal joy when I fully own and connect.
Can I just pick up on something there as well, is that when we say, I am enough, that doesn't mean that I'm a finished work or I'm perfection. And it's not being big-headed to say I'm enough. It's acknowledging the value of your soul. The I am enough still leaves room for improvement. So it's an inherent contradiction. I'm perfect exactly the way I am because that's where I'm meant to be at this point in my existence, but I still can improve as well. And that's what the beauty of these mastermind calls. It's the beauty of the system that we have in front of us here with the abundance game and so on, is that we all can settle. We're not settle. We can all sit stand in our place, sit comfortably in the fact that we are enough. We don't need anything external to complete us, but yet we can still improve ourselves every day in every way. And so there's that paradox, the sort of juxtaposition of two opposing concepts that actually fit together. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Yeah, that was super powerful. And what was coming up for me through both of you sharing there was non-attachment. So that would be, to me, straight in the middle of the balance of non-attachment to either way. And certainly with regards to what you were saying there, Kelly, that I do believe, and it goes right the way back to what we were talking earlier, I do believe that we need money based on the society we live in. Like, there's no denying that. I don't believe anybody would deny it based on where we live, like what we want to do. So for instance, there's so much that I can do here in my own backyard. Thank you. There's so much I can do in my own backyard. But for me to go off and tour Australia, I will need money for that, which then is giving me a whole new experience, which is helping me grow, which is helping me connect more to the earth, which also means I'm connecting more to myself. I'm becoming more within myself. So and I'll give you an example of this as well. Where we live is 10 minutes from the city, and there's obviously, it's lit up. We all know that when we're on a plane, and if you don't know, if you've never been on a plane, you're going to find out now. When you're on a plane and you're flying into somewhere and it's nighttime, it's all dark all over, usually the country. You may see the odd light here and there, but when you get towards the city, it's all illuminated. So we live 10 minutes from the city. We're still in a very busy town area. But where Beth's parents live, which is out in a farm, which is about 45 minutes to an hour inland, when we look up to the sky, we see so many more stars at the farm than we do in the city. And they're huge, like based on the fact there's no other light around. So even the moon looks completely different. So for those experiences, especially with, for me wanting to go and do four-wheel driving, I don't need to spend $50,000 on a four-wheel drive. I can spend $5,000 or even less. I've seen people spend a lot less, but I've also chosen to do that based on the fact that the energy exchange that I choose to give every day based on this and other things that I do, if I want something like that to reward myself, this is the way that I'm going to reward myself for that energy exchange. And for that money coming in, I'm going to let it go out to somewhere else, but I'm still getting something of value to me that's going to help me go to and have different experiences. Then I believe that is where the value of money comes in, because it's being received and it's being used in the way that it was intended, in my opinion. Not from a place of power to be better than anybody else, but from a place of helping elevate where I want to go in this adventure that I'm on right now in life. So that's what I've come to realize about. It's not about, hey, check how much money I've got in my bank. It's about how am I using this money? And when I say using, it's obviously not from a disrespect angle. How is this money giving me the opportunities that I want and I desire to help me? Remember when I said earlier on about the goals? The goal for me was to get a four-wheel drive, to modify it ready for touring, to get a four-wheel drive caravan. They were my goals. And then in the book, it says, for you to achieve that, what is going to be the energy exchange? For me to achieve that, I am going to give this, and therefore it will come to fruition. So if I'm giving this, I'm living up to my part of the agreement. The universe has heard that, the universe is watching that, and the universe then goes, Martin, you've done what you said you were going to do. You are going to be rewarded. And there you go. There's the money for the caravan. The caravan is what I want, but the result of the caravan is the ability to go and tour Australia and become more than I am right now, and connect and create those relationships, those experiences, and share that with everybody else, to maybe not only have them with us and on that journey and enjoying that adventure, but potentially to awaken them to say, you can do this if you desire.
Yes. All about the energy and valuing, and then the joy of receiving.
100%. Yeah.
The community.
Yeah.
Ripple effect.
That's been a big one. And I don't know if anybody else has ever felt this. That's been a big one for me in particular, Callie, receiving. I've always been happy to give and help others and be of service and so on. But receiving is like, no. You don't give me that. I'm the one that does all the giving. I don't want anything. I don't need anything. And it's like, well, if I don't let somebody else come in and do this, I'm stopping them from feeling that energy that I feel. So all of a sudden I'm fighting against the universe and somebody else's fulfillment.
Yeah, and you're fighting against the universe of the laws of joy, received and given.
Yeah.
Because the outcome of the receiving and giving is an internal joy that no one can take from each other. And the laws of the universe are joy.
Just out of curiosity, based on this topic, and let's say people scrolling through Facebook and they see Think and Grow Rich, how do you believe that they would, and we're going to make a judgment here based on what we believe in society, how do you believe people would come across, and then when sitting down and listening to this conversation, do you think that they would be like, whoa, this isn't what I was expecting?
I don't know. I think I have to re-listen to what we talked about.
I think the majority of people would, when you're going back to your previous question, the majority of people, when they hear the title of the book, would think it's about how to make more money, because that's what the majority of people are kind of looking for, thinking that is the answer. That it's all about, if you can make more money, you can do. Well, of course, if you make more money, you have more choices available to you, that's for sure. And it's where you approach this from depends on your current state as well. If you're sitting there absolutely flat broke and you've got, medical bills and bills that you owe the tax office and the government and, all sorts of people, of course you're under pressure, and then you're going to be thinking, I need more money. I just need more money. I've got to get myself out of this situation. If you're sitting there comfortable, you're looking at it more philosophically. If you're sitting there rich, you've got another perspective again. So it really depends on what you're looking for and where you're at, what your present state is. But the thing we go back to is about, what is it you think that the money's going to do for you? Is it just going to enable you to pay those bills and fix that problem? Or is the money going to be useful in some other way? Is it that, are you one of these people who can afford to do something for the community, or do something nice for your family, or do something nice for friends, or, what would it be for? So it really comes down to the motivation, but it's also a lot of the for me about the book is about finding that inner happiness. And that's not necessarily from money. Money can buy you things, and you can't do a lot without it. We know that. That's the reality of life. You can sit there and cross-legged and chant and have a great time. You can't necessarily go somewhere else and do it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Tony, but I've still got this need for it to be an energy transfer, but not because it's got to be. It's because I want to evolve and be a bigger energy on the earth. And if that means I have to receive and accept money to be also, because it's one part of the abundance is money, like love, joy, all of the universe can supply us whatever we believe. But if my energy field's not big enough to receive what I believe, I will still not receive it until my life slaps me around enough to make me awake to be big enough.
Yes.
And then my energy field of that $1 million I want to have in my bank account will then equal that, because I've grown as a human being to meet that, even if I'm not conscious of that creation happening. So I think mindset with that money, where, people want to be a millionaire, as an example, when they put that out to the universe meets you where you're at, even if your bank account's only $10, and then you slowly evolve, whether it's quick or slow, to meet that $1 million energetically before you reach that $1 million.
Can I throw you a hypothetical question in?
Yeah.
What if, with some people, do you think that the quest for money is actually based on fear?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything's based on fear. Because really, if you don't think you're worthy of $1 million, there's already a fear in that. Some unconscious fear, subconscious fear, so about you not being good enough.
There's a fear in having it as much as there is in not having it.
Yeah, because what if the fear means you've got to be more than you think you are? or you don't know if you're good enough, or like there's lots of
You're
them.
not deserving of it, or
Yeah, like depending on what your belief is. So it's back to belief and changing our belief to match what we are worthy of.
There's there's always absolute incredible amount of gold that's shared in here. Is there anything coming up for you, Albert, that you wanted to share before I dived into this?
Well, not entirely. I sure agree with what Tony was saying here a while ago. It seems to hit home. There's it's funny. I read a quote just before this call came on, and it was how did it go? It's not sometimes it's not how productive you are in the day, but how present you are in the day. And somehow that seems to ring true to the topic here today and the conversation that's going on.
Yeah, it's there's I think it was something I heard from Wayne Dyer. It was either Wayne Dyer or Abraham Hicks saying it's not about getting through the day, it's about what we get from the day, who we become in that day. And whilst Callie in particular was answering the question, it took me right back to what was said in Outwitting the Devil. And when obviously I'm just going to take a section of this, so because I believe it does fit in here. And he said that all epidemics in which great numbers of people are similarly effective are caused by the law of hypnotic rhythm, which through which nature consolidates thoughts of a similar nature and causes those thoughts to be expressed through mass action. Now, remember what I said earlier on about if the universe, nature will fill any void. Like there's no voids. Everything gets filled. So if there's room for negativity to be in there because we've not filled things with positivity, so to speak, it will be put in there. So here, this is when the devil talks a bit further around the Great Depression. Remember, this was written the Outwitting the Devil was written in 1938, but it wasn't released until 2011. So millions of people were endeavoring to get something for nothing through stock gambling when they suddenly discovered they had got nothing for something. They became frightened, rushed to their banks to draw out their balances and panic, and the panic was on. Through mass thought of millions of minds, all thinking in terms of fear of poverty, the depression was prolonged over a period of years. Now, the lady who actually was, I don't know if you call her an annotator or I don't know if that's the right word, or a narrator or whatever, but she said, think of today. Now, this was back in 2011, obviously, and then it was put into an audio. The current economic turmoil throughout the world was put into motion in a similar fashion. Millions were endeavoring to get something for nothing through real estate, no money down deals, subprime mortgages, and valuation bubbles, as well as the financial markets. When everything started to collapse, they became frightened and the panic was on once again. By changing the thoughts of these millions from fear back to focus on fundamentally sound financial principles, can we stabilize the economy? Napoleon Hill's philosophy can show us the way. The choice is ours. So you think around like what you just said then, Callie, fear. In some ways, the fear is driving people to move forward, but in some ways it's also taking the legs from under them to stay where they are. And I remember Les Brown talking about, I think it was just an analogy he used, but apparently in this prison, they were going to shoot these prisoners, but they gave them all an option. And as the prisoners came through, the I've forgotten what you call that, the chief guard or whatever, gave them the option of going out this door. And the secretary was in the room, and this prisoner came through, and he said, no, you can either go for the firing squad or you can go out this door. And the prisoner said, what's beyond the door? And he said, nobody knows. stories of horror and all these horrible stories. And he said, and the guy said, firing squad. So afterwards, the secretary had said, what's beyond the door? And he said, freedom. But very few people will choose it because they don't know. It's fear. So it's the unknown. So they would rather go and be shot because they know what the outcome's going to be rather than potential torture. So when you think around that fear basis, and I know obviously this is way out of it than the money, but at the same time, it's still an outcome. And a lot of people, when we associate it, it's irrelevant of what we perceive as to be the result. Because for some people, like, we know that something will happen in their life and it'll rip them apart. But for some people, it's like water off a duck's back. So the money aspect of it, for a lot of people, if we're in that state of fear, is that it can take the legs from under them and not move. But in other people, it's like, I don't want that. So what do I have to do? For some, it's going to drive them so hard that they miss the message and they just destroy along the way, which then comes back to the question of, and I know what the answer is going to be for some of you, is certainly Callie, but an honest answer, and this is what it's about, is would you rather, you're going to earn money, would you rather earn money and receive it through doing something of value to others, or would you rather just be earning money irrelevant of how it's coming in?
Albert?
Well, I think it would, I'd choose the one where it could do something of value for others, obviously.
And why'd you say obviously there, Albert?
Well, it's kind of what I'm doing now. Like I'm working where I'm fixing up other people's homes and doing renovations and stuff like that, and that's how I'm earning my living.
Yeah, cool. Who else would like to share? And why? Go
I've
for
got
it,
to.
Callie.
I was just thinking I wouldn't do either of those choices. I would do what values me first. But I'm not coming from ego.
No.
I'm coming from the fact that if I can't value me in my choice, and I've put someone else first that I'm going to help, and I know helping is definitely one of my goals, but I'm not really helping if I'm coming from the wrong side of the cup in my heart chakra. So I would be valuing my choice first, even if it was a no to help. Even though in the past, I would have just said yes without checking in with my value all my life. But now I'm a bit more wiser and older. In the last probably year or two, I have come from checking in my value. And if it has to be a no, I say no.
Beautiful.
And that honors the person that I would have helped, because they find someone else that helps that's meant to do it.
Yeah. Powerful, Callie. Thank you. Mr. Inman.
Can you just repeat that question?
I was hoping you weren't going to say that because I can't remember the question. The question was
okay.
down the lines of, would you rather earn money and receive money from impacting and doing something positive in other people's lives, or via a way of had nothing to do with anybody, it was just loads of money coming in through nothing? And in the easiest way that I can explain it, it would be being of service to others, that giving them something of value that really connects with them, rather than, let's say, cryptocurrency or forex trading or something like that, that's just cold to me.
Well, okay, that's what I thought you asked. And I was just thinking that the obvious answer would be to say, oh, obviously I'd rather do something that's going to help people. And the controversial answer would be to say, no, I'd rather just get money for doing nothing. I don't think it's as straightforward a question as that, because it doesn't actually really matter where you get the money from, because money's just money. It's what you then do with it. So yes, ideally you would want to think or feel good about yourself that you've earned that money by being of service to others, or, you know, providing products or services that help other people. And that's the way most of us get it. But if you have investments, for example, and I mean, I'm not into cryptocurrency. I couldn't care less about it. I don't want to know about it, because it is that sort of cold exchange. But I don't denigrate anyone who does, because if that's how they choose to make their money and it brings in the money, that's fine. I mean, people have money in the bank and it brings interest in. What used to in the old days, it doesn't bring much interest these days. But, you know, if you've got a property portfolio, that's going to probably make you wealthy in a way. There's still an implied effort on your part in the first place to have set up that situation. So you can't really escape that in a way. You're going to have to do something to create the thing in the first place. But yeah, just supposing there's money coming in for you, it doesn't really matter where it came from, in a sense. I'm not talking about obviously sitting there reaping in the rewards of drug money or money that's come in from ill-gotten gains. You know, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that if you've earned money from, whether it's investments or your actual physical labor, that's not really the point. The point is then, what are you going to do with it? Is it going to benefit not just you, but people around you? And this is the thing, money is just a concept anyway, because as soon as you've got money and you spend it, you go down, get your car serviced at the local mechanic, you've helped that family. You spend money in the shop, you've helped that family. So it's all going around all the time, backwards and forwards. The thing we get hung up about so much money, or why we get so much hung up about money, is the measurement of it. If somebody's sitting there appearing to have it all, like you said at the beginning, and the nice house with the nice car and the nice boat and everything, as compared with the poor family who's struggling to feed the children this week, in two completely different situations. But does that mean they're happier or they're happier? Well, like you said, David Beckham example, it's complicated. At that point in his life, the great thing about that documentary was it slammed him right in the face. He, just by being asked that question, he had to think about it and answer it and go, oh, maybe I'm not as happy as I thought I was. Could he afford to go and buy anything he wanted? Yeah, he probably could. Yeah, he's a billionaire, not far off it. So it's not really about the money. It's about how you feel inside, and how you're then able to impact and influence people around you. Did I answer the question? You were trying to pin us down to a yes or no kind of.
No, do you know what? I truly wasn't. I truly wasn't.
Joking. I know you weren't. You were actually just provoking conversation.
And I know you were joking, Tony. I know you well. It's really, really hit me hard with what you just said there, because, and I'm certainly not saying this for any other way than sharing it in this moment, but a friend of mine who's going through cancer and has lost pretty much everything that he's got financially. He had a something to finish paying off, and it was quite a large sum, and I just paid it off without hesitation. My attitude was, this guy does not need this stress, and it's not worth stressing over. He needs to get healthy. And I didn't think anything of it. I just did it because I just knew that was the right thing to do for me. As in the right thing for me to do rather for him, based on the situation. And anyway, and I just told him on the phone when we were having a chat. I didn't tell him what I'd done, didn't go into it all, didn't tell him how much it was. I just said, all that I want you to do is focus on getting well. That's all you need to do. Don't need to worry about that thing that you were paying for. It's all taken care of. And the gratitude and emotion that came through from him was just incredible. And I didn't do it for any result of it. I just did it to help him reduce his stress. And that, with what you just said there, Tony, around what you can do with it, it's actually helped shift something within me around certain ways that of earning money, and money coming in, because I've more so looked in one example of the front end of the way to do it, rather than the outcome of the money and what can be created based on who I am. And then all of a sudden, the message that I'm going to people and sharing with them is completely different, because it's not about just join this or invest in this or do this. It's about, this is what I intend and I'm going to do with the result of this money. And this is why I'm bringing it to the table. This is the model. This is how it works. This is what I'm going to do with what I receive. The same as when we go right the way back to Andrew Carnegie. This is what I'm going to do for the first half of my life. This is what I'm going to do for the second half of life. And this first half is going to fund and financially this part. And I will be remembered for this part. Yes, people will know me for being the steel industry king, but this is what will truly make the difference in the world. So that it's interesting how, you know, there's all these messages that are taking place, and through these kind of conversations, not only is it coming up with us on the call, but also the messages we've been hearing all throughout. And I know a question was asked by Bob Proctor in one of his seminars where he said, do you have a perfect memory? Who has a perfect memory? And no one put their hand up. He says, all your hands should be up, because we all remember everything. We just need to be asked the right questions and the information will come out of us. And it really, I only understood that when I did a course recently, and they went right. I was like, I don't remember anything from being a child, like little things, but they went so deep, and there was stuff coming up that I couldn't even, I couldn't fathom was coming out of me from when I was a kid. But to ask me, I was like, I don't remember, I don't know. And straight away, as soon as you say I don't or I can't, it's the reality.
Thanks, Martin, because what you just shared about your friend and your heart-centered share of valuing both of you. And then it just comes back to valuing love with no conditions, unconditional love. And I guess because I'm all about personal evolution, awakening, I always bring it back to internal value, because if I can't love myself in everything, then I can't truly give unconditionally.
Yeah.
And so, but what you shared was the unconditional love outcome when we love ourselves unconditionally, that we then can value everything and everyone. And the universe always supports us all, even if we're not aware of it. Like, so just that goes back around in a big circle.
Well, Wayne Dyer asked the question of, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? You know, and like, does anybody want to answer that?
Juice.
What type of juice? Apple juice?
Orange.
Orange juice. So this is, and it's funny you said that, Tony, because somebody answered juice, and he said, what kind of juice? When you squeeze an orange, what comes out is orange juice, because it's an orange. So when somebody squeezes us, what comes out? Joy. Is it anger? Is it hatred? Is it frustration? Is it love? And he said, whatever's inside of you is what will come out of you. And it hit me so hard when I heard that several years ago, because that's when I really started doing the inner work on myself. Because at that time I was in a state of hatred towards certain people. And when I dived deeper into that, I then started to learn around forgiveness. And when I chose to forgive, that's when things started shifting for me. Not only people externally, but self. Forgiving who I am, the actions I've made, and the things that I choose to do. And even today, when I find myself in a state of judgment, and I'll pick myself up and go, hey, come on, send them love. So then I send them love and I send myself love in that moment, and I forgive myself, because it's part of that conditioning that's happened over the years, and breaking free of those chains, peeling the layers off.
Yeah, definitely conditions. That's why unconditional love has no conditions. It's like giving and receiving from its purest form, because when you give, you receive, and that's not your mindset, because when you're in true pure love, there is no mindset. Yeah. There's none needed.
Beautiful.
Well, there's another point that came up earlier that I think Kelly used the word about, or no, actually it was Albert was talking about us being present. Presence is the key, really. When we're operating out of ego, then that's where all these things are. Like we're talking about money. Ego is what's driving, buying the boat, the car, and all the material stuff. Presence and love is what you describe, Martin, with helping your friend out. That's the difference.
I do have to wrap this up, but we had a question, and I just want to ask this because I'm curious to know what somebody or a few of you have got to answer it. Lynette said, "It fascinates me how people win big money. How are they vibrating to match that energy, and what happens to the energy that causes them to blow all of that money? How can it be so vastly different?" So the question, how are they vibrating to match that energy, and what happens to the energy that causes them to blow all the money?
I think it's definitely to do with presence. And like when we're present, our energy is the entire universe, because it's all one. So when we're fully present, but a lot of us are in our mind, and when we're in our mind, even for a quick judgment on something, we've already left our full potential of presence. So it happens all the time unconsciously. We're not fully present. And presence is the key, and love is where the door is.
So with that, Kelly, would you say then that the focus would be, and the desire and where all the energy is in achieving and getting the result of the money? But once we've got it, then there creeps in the fear of losing it. And as soon as the fear creeps in,
yeah, any programs, unconscious, subconscious, around fear of losing the money from any small one belief from when you were 5 already is affecting you staying present. Because as soon as that fear, even if it's unconscious, comes in, you're not present, not fully. You've already leaked out the energy of the abundance.
Do you ever watch a Richard Pryor movie called Brewster's Millions? Have a watch of that one. It's where he's getting an inheritance, but the condition of the inheritance is he has to blow so many million before he can get the big payout, you know? So he's given some money, and the rule is he has to spend it all within, I think, 30 days or something like that. He's got this time frame that he has to get rid of all the money, and he's actually struggling to spend it all.
What's that, Albert?
He has to spend the money and have nothing to show for it.
That's right. Yes, thank you, Albert. That was the key part. Yes, he has to actually be completely broke, flat broke, and turn up at the office of the solicitor on the day of the appointed time, the appointed day, and prove that he's absolutely flat broke. Only then can he be given the money.
Cool. Look forward to watching that one. What was it called again?
Brewster's Millions.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, I better wrap this up so we can get on to the Gold Star call. So I just want to say thank you to each one of you, because it's been an amazing call. Obviously, we started off all around the book, and the conversation's still been relatable, but certainly been shifting and going deep in regards to spiritual, emotional, universal areas, as well as what's going on right now logically and consciously in this time in our lives. So thank you for all your shares. Remember, as always, share your 3 big takeaways in the Your Desired Success group. And thanks for Thanks for everyone who's been on the live. Lynette's just put in, wow, better do my mindset work before all this money flows to me. Thank you for answering my question. Much appreciated. So yeah, awesome work, everyone. Thanks for your energy, your time, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for the
Thanks,
questions.
man. Thank you, everyone.